prepared before a storm gets here. That's not the time to start making a plan. Right now is the time to know what your risk is, what your plans are for your family, how to stay informed, and how to get involved and volunteer so that you can help your community before the storm gets here. Take preparedness seriously, as in these past couple years, we never know how a disaster will evolve. If you wait till the last minute, that's when everybody is in there wanting to get those last little bit of supplies. Now's the time to start because we are having supply chain issues. Take your time and making sure that you have all the exact items that you need to put in your emergency kit that should be able to support you for up to at least 7 days. It's important to know your evacuation zone. If we get into a situation where a decision has to be made that you're in danger from the surge coming in that's created by a storm event, that you know when your zone is called that it's time for you to go. Preparedness, preparedness, preparedness. You never know what the hazard is going to be, what the event is going to be, but if you take those basic steps that we talked about, it can apply to any hazard that impacts Hillsborough County, and your family will stay safe. Good morning. I'm Tim Dudley, Hillsborough County Office of Emergency Management Director, and I'll be providing a brief update of county's current emergency operations. Our assessment teams hit the street this morning to assess the damage, including checking for passable roads, damaged property, down power lines, down traffic lights, and flooding. During the night, Hillsborough County Fire Rescue crews were able to run regular services because the conditions did not reach a threshold where they needed to pull back. Because the damage is minimal in the evacuated areas, County Administrator Wise lifted the emergency evacuation order this morning. Please note that the MacDill Air Force Base remains closed. The base is assessing damage and will publicize when it is safe to return to the base. After sheltering over 8,000 evacuees in 47 general population shelters, pet-friendly shelters, special needs shelters, Hillsborough County is concluding shelter operations or transitioning shelter availability for evacuees who continue to need assistance. Power outages continue in some areas of Hillsborough County. Please stay away from down power lines. TECO crews are currently working to restore power. Sporadic strong winds are expected throughout this morning, so please use caution. Yesterday, Northwest Hillsborough County had 1 inch of rain. Southeast County had 12 inches of rain, showing the wide variation in conditions that still exists across the region. We are monitoring for major flooding that could be expected at the Little Manatee River and at Waimama Friday morning, and moderate flooding on the Alfaya River at Lithia Pinecrest Friday morning. There will be no county-run points of distribution. Instead, we will refer people to our community partners with Feeding Tampa Bay and Metropolitan Ministries. For Feeding Tampa Bay, you can text FTBFYI to 833-530-3663 for more information. For Metropolitan Ministries, please visit their website for the latest information. Also, for the county, you can visit hcflgov.net/stay safe. And also, you can call 833-HC-STORM, 833-HC-STORM for all the latest information. Thank you, and we will now hear with me for the briefing this morning. I have the County Administrator, Bonnie Wise, Chairman of Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners, Kimberly Overman, Fire Rescue Chief, Dennis Jones, Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Chronister, Attorney General Ashley Moody, and Sherry Jacobs, spokesperson from TICO. We will now hear from County Administrator Bonnie Wise.
Thank you, Tim. Hillsborough County was very fortunate in the final track that the Hurricane Ian took. The last-minute movement to the east spared us from the worst of the winds and the rain. I want to thank our residents for their vigilance and resilience in the preparations and the response to the storm. We were lucky once again. However, threats do still remain. Please continue to use caution. I also want to thank all of our partners who have joined us today. This storm continues to require an all-hands-on-deck effort to ensure a quick recovery. The seamless team of Hillsborough County and its partners has served our community so well throughout this emergency. Finally, I want to thank our employees. The members of Hillsborough County Fire Rescue and the Hillsborough County Office of Emergency Management are truly our heroes during the most challenging times. So much of their efforts happen behind the scenes. Thank you all so much. You are an inspiration. I also want to thank the many employees from our other departments across the county who responded and will continue to work throughout the recovery process. Our public servants are the best in the nation. You are the glue that holds our community together. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Chairman Overman.
Thank you. Thank you. Today is a great day compared to what we were anticipating, and I want to say thank you to all of our employees, all of those that have stepped up. We are so lucky and so thankful that we were spared the worst of this most incredible event. Our hearts go out to those and our friends and neighbors south of our area that are feeling the impacts of these storms in a great way. Please keep them in your thoughts as our entire region recovers from this storm. I want to thank our residents for heeding the warnings, following evacuation orders, and helping mitigate this storm's impact and allowing us to address any damage and helping us avoid the loss of life. I urge everyone to continue to exercise caution. There is still some stuff on the roads, there's still some lines down, there's still some lights out. So we want to make sure that you do be very, very careful when you go out to watch everyone around you and to be safe. It is with that vigilance that we have been served so well, not only by those that have served us here, but also by the residents that have followed in all the advice. Thank you for your efforts. Thank you for your patience, for the continued efforts as we recover from this storm. Ms. Wise, you and your employees, all of our partners, all of our agencies have served our community quite well. Thank you for everything that you've done to make this a safe event for so many. And for those of you that are still in need of resources, help is continuing to be on the way. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Cronister.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley. Thanks for everything that you continue to do here at the Emergency Operations Center. Have to start with just a few thank yous. Thank you to our County Administrator, Bonnie Wise. It was her vision, it was her sense of urgency that she issued these evacuation orders, and the fact that our community heeded these warnings. I've never seen this community get so well prepared and over my 30 years of law enforcement experience. It's because of our county administrator's vision and her diligence and all the community partners that we continue to speak about is the reason that we haven't had one loss of life as a result of this storm. I have to also take a quick moment, thank our governor for strategically placing assets throughout the state of Florida. That will help us be expeditious in returning that service, whatever the needs may be, including fuel. We had to close the port down. We'll get the port back open. It's fully stocked, and there shouldn't be long lines or any type of gas shortage here in Hillsborough County. I also have to take a moment to thank our Attorney General, Ashley Moody. The General has been in constant communication, I know, with all 67 sheriffs, and I'm one of them who remained in constant contact, offering any type of resources her and any of her office could provide. And I know she'll speak about some of that we have seen and will see, and how she plans to combat that here momentarily. Lastly, thank you. Thank you to the men and women of Hillsborough County Fire Rescue and the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. I know you've been away from your families for several days, and you have remained diligent leading up to the storm, even during the storm, and now after the storm, as we continue into this next phase of our hurricane plan. Thank you. It was you, when the storm was reaching 48-mile-per-hour winds, who went out and cut a tree off of an individual to rescue them and rush them to the hospital as our deputies used the chainsaws to free them. Thank you. I know some of you, not all of you, will be able to return to your families as now we start our contingency plan on what assets and resources we are able to send down south. I talked to Sheriff Marcino from Lee County last night, and he took the phone call standing atop of a roof of one of his SWAT Bearcats on a satellite phone. And he told me that there were catastrophic loss and total devastation. He believes the loss of life is in the hundreds. So yes, I know all of us are anxious to get down there and help, and just got off the phone with him momentarily. All of us are anxious to go down and help. That's what first responders do, and we'll figure out what that plan looks like. We'll get with our county administrator and deploy those assets as quickly as possible. So what's the Sheriff's Office doing now? As we suspended service temporarily last night and then early this morning, gave the order for them to go back. As you can imagine, our deputies were extremely anxious to get back out there. We are still in those evacuation zones. Our residents are slowly returning. Some won't return till maybe the beginning of the week. We will be out there, have a heavy patrol presence again to make sure anyone tries to take advantage and victimize one of our residents that had to evacuate. So we'll be out there being diligent. We're out here. Our cut teams are out here. They're helping Tampa Electric. They're working with, again, Hillsborough County Fire Rescue, and our partners with the county, trying to free up these roadways. So we passed several as we were out early this morning, cutting trees down, again, trying to get these roadways open so emergency vehicles can flow to anyone who may need assistance, and people who have evacuated can get back to their homes. Businesses can open, and we can return to some sense of normalcy. If you don't have a reason to be out in the roadways, please don't. I know curiosity is getting the best of you, but all you're doing is causing more traffic for our first responders who need to get somewhere, for Tampa Electric, whether it's some of the cell phone companies, whatever needs to be restored, you're actually hindering those efforts. Continue to remain hunkered down. It's not going to be long, and we'll be back to that sense of normalcy and get our families back, and hopefully with the weather going to be so gorgeous this weekend, start enjoying the weekend. Also, there's still a lot of power lights, power to traffic lights that are out and are inoperable. Just a friendly reminder, that's not just a free-for-all. We've made it through the storm unscathed. We don't want to lose a life now because no one's treated that light that's out as a four-way stop. Take just a moment. None of us are in that big of a hurry to take a moment, treat it as a four-way stop, look all ways, and then continue to move forward. So again, thank you to this community for heeding the warnings. Thank you to our our county administrator and all our partners here that you see represented here today and this community that we proudly serve. It's because of you and by the grace of God that we sit here proudly. We haven't lost one life as a result of this storm. Thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you, sir. We'll now hear from the Attorney General Moody.
Good morning. I know many families in this county, Hillsborough County, are waking up this morning and wondering what is going on in their state, how their family and friends have fared within our own county. And I just have to say, being involved and watching this county, specifically being a fifth-generation Floridian, and this is my home county, I have been intimately involved in what is happening. The sheriff, the chairman, and I were discussing how well organized and prepared Tim Dudley and Bonnie Wise were here during this emergency situation. And the residents of Hillsborough County can be comforted that they have folks in charge that don't just have the requisite experience, but they have been passionate about protecting this community. And I think that you will see over the coming days as we assess the damage to our county that their preparation efforts paid off. We went into this, as you remember, on Monday, being very fearful that the storm coming would be the storm we always feared here in Tampa Bay, in terms of what that might bring in terms of a storm surge and flooding. And we did not see that here because in the very last moments and days, it shifted south. Our friends in Lee County, in Charlotte County, they are waking up this morning and assessing. I've been on the phone with law enforcement, and while our sheriff here is assuring everyone in Hillsborough County that we have not lost life, and that is a blessing, and we thank God for that, our friends in Lee and Charlotte may not be so lucky. And they are saying that this morning is an assessment period for them. Not only are they diligently checking their infrastructure, their roadways, their bridges. There are reports of injured and other issues going on with their roadways. They are primarily focusing on saving lives and assessing how many they lost. And that is a moment that we all fear as Floridians, knowing that hurricanes are always a risk to our state. And so this morning is a time of assessment for those counties. We have about 2.5 million homes without power right now in the state. Luckily, in preparation for this, we were able to strategically place assets to come in immediately following the storm. And we know as the storm is leaving the east side of our state, we can now start deploying those. We have thousands of National Guardsmen, thousands of linesmen ready to go in. We're receiving assistance from FEMA. And so the state and the Federal Emergency Administration are working well together. And I think this morning we will start to have a better understanding of what our damage looks like, not the financial effects on our state, and sadly, the numbers of loss of life. So pray for those counties that weren't as fortunate as Hillsborough County. And please send your prayers to the first responders that are in it right now in standing water, trying to rescue people, trying to assess loss of life. These are the moments when law enforcement and other first responders and fire rescue step up. And while we're pausing to assess, they are in there on the front lines dealing with that tragedy. And I am so proud of them through this storm. They have acted heroically and are doing so this morning while we're here giving reports and you're watching from the safety and structure of your home. They are out there saving lives. So we thank them very much. The Attorney General's office is working with ACA to make sure that we are assessing our nursing homes, our residential facilities. We are also still manning our price gouging hotline as people start hunkering down for the storm. That wanes a bit, but as people are trying to get back into their homes, if they are displaced from their homes during this time of emergency, please still, you can always call, let us know. We start looking, while it was primarily gas and water, that may start shifting into hotels and others, so you can always call 1-866-9-NO-SCAM or download the statewide reporting app, No Scam, to any Android device or iPhone. Again, I thank not only the amazing folks behind me, Sheriff Chad Chronister, and all those that we have mentioned before, but all of the first responders working so hard throughout our state right now to assess where we stand. And you can imagine over the coming weeks, they will be away from their families, working to protect yours and help us recover from this storm. This is going to be one of the worst storms to have ever hit our state. So the recovery efforts will also be historic. So thank you very much. And I send my congratulations and job well done to the officials here in Hillsborough County, though we know it's not a job over. There's still a lot of work to do. They have performed admirably thus far, and we're so proud of them.
Thank you, ma'am. And perhaps the most important person here this morning, Sherry Jacobs, spokesperson for TICO.
No pressure. Good morning. Good news. Restoration has begun. We, at first light today, our damage assessors and our troubleshooters were in the field looking at the damage from the storm. Our line crews came out a little later, and they are already restoring power. After Hurricane Ian passed through this area, we had about 295 or so customers affected with power outages. That number's already starting to tick down for those folks who are getting their air conditioning back. I know they're very relieved. We have a complement of 3,000 workers joining us in the force to restore power. They come from states as far away as Oklahoma and Texas and Indiana, and they are line workers and tree trimmers and damage assessors, and they are here to help supplement our crews and help get everyone's power restored as quickly and safely as possible. Two things I'd like folks to remember. One, particularly in these early days after the storm, be very aware of any downed power lines. Please report them to us and stay away from them and alert your neighbors to stay away from them. They don't always crackle and wave around even if they're live. So report them to us, let us take care of it. That's your number one priority. Second priority, patience. This was a big storm. It's going to be a big effort to restore power. Customers should expect extended outages, but rest assured, we got this. We'll get your power back as quickly and safely as we can.
Thank you. In conclusion, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the leadership throughout the county, here in Hillsborough County, and just throughout the community. I'd like to thank the community for heeding the warnings and doing what you needed to do to make sure that we were safe and able to respond. And I'd like to thank all the folks you all don't get to see in the background, my team and all the folks who on orders make their way here to the Emergency Operations Center. That's a couple of hundred folks that's here, and all the folks that man the shelters out there and made those last minute emergency runs, even as we saw impacts. You know, folks didn't like to hear me say it, but we are still in the season 2 more months. We're gonna go back, reset, and make sure that we're able and ready to respond. And also, as the sheriff mentioned, we're gonna sit down with the leadership so that we can definitely take a look at how we can assist our neighbors to the south. And all our prayers go out to them as they begin the Herculean effort in recovery. That concludes this update. Thank you.